Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. Today on the show, I am going to be joined by a well-known Queensland fishing identity, Nabeel Issa, or Nabs as he is known in the tournament scene. Nabs was introduced to fishing by his dad at a young age, and by his mid-teens was competing in the ABT Bream circuit. Over the next 12 years, he built an impressive record, including winning Non-Boater of the Year in 2010 and back-to-back Gold Coast Easter Classic titles and runner-up in the Bribie Island qualifier and fifth place in the Bribie Grand Final, among many other achievements. Today he stepped back from the full tournament grind but also remains one of the sharpest anglers in southeast Queensland. He's a master on Moreton Bay and co-founder of My Fishing Coach, where he helps anglers get the most out of modern sonar and electronics. Anyway, there's a bit more to go on. This is a great interview. I think you're really going to enjoy it. For the members of the collective, there's something just at the end of this episode, so hang around. I look forward to sharing that with you guys. So anyway, let's roll the intros and then we'll bring Nabs on. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bream Fishing Project. This is where you need to be every Tuesday to find out all the latest tips and tricks to help you target bream on lures. You'll get to hear from some of Australia's elite bream competition anglers and see how they were able to achieve their results in competitions around the country. Now, here is your host, the 2019 Hobie Kayak Fishing World Champion, Andrew Deeth.
Hi, Nabs, and welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
No problems at all, mate. I'm thrilled to have you on. There's a lot of stuff going on in the areas that you are quite proficient in. But what I really want to do, mate, is I want to dial back the clock and give our listeners and viewers a bit of a clue as to who you are and what you do for those guys who don't know you. Tell us about, I've heard a story about you catching your first bream. How about we go back to there and run through that?
Sure. My first bream, when I was probably 5 years old. So my dad loved fishing and obviously he wanted to get me into it as well. And I would have been 5 and he bought me a rod. So it was like this fiberglass rod with a little blue LV reel on it, the kids one. I remember the reel. And we went to this jetty down in Manly in Brisbane.
In Sydney? In Brisbane?
In Brisbane, okay. Yeah, we got a Manly with it. And I remember catching the bream. I can distinctly remember walking down the jetty. It was on the right-hand side, probably type of prawns for both. And I caught this bream there, and then we walked into another spot, and I caught a couple more. And that was probably my first fishing memory. But I don't think I've stopped fishing since then. I was addicted from a very young age, and all I wanted to do was just go fishing.
And with your dad, I assume you guys were bait fishermen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So we basically, until I was about 14, 15 years old, I started to get into lures. So a mate of mine at school, who I still fish with, he watched an episode of, there's something on TV about using lures for bream and snapper in the Brisbane River.
Okay.
And it was for possibly squidgies had just come out. And so he was teeing on it. I wasn't really interested. And he ended up getting these squidgies and the Starlo and Bushy video where they demonstrate how to use the squidgies.
Nice.
So I would go over to his place and would watch it, and it was pretty cool. They're catching cool fish. And then I went and bought the Berkeley equivalent, which was an embroider demonstrating how to use Berkeley lures. So you've got a pack
right.
of some bass minnows and the little grubs and some chickheads, which I still have that pack today, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Probably should have used them more than I did. And so we started using lures. So we'd go fishing. My dad would take us both, and we'd just flip plastics instead of using bait all the time. And we're not very good at it. We had maybe the odd flathead and pike. Bream was like really difficult to catch on lures. We just seemed like a really hard fish to catch, and we would consider it I remember my first bream took that long to catch on lures. So it was like quite a milestone to catch a bream on a lure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think 14, 15 was when it really, the lure thing kicked off. And then I found the tournaments from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, in doing a bit of research, you kicked off your tournaments pretty much as soon as you possibly could at 16.
Yeah. So with that as well, as I got into more of the lure fishing, I bought from the newsagents my magazine, and I saw this red tournament angler guide with, I forget who's on the cover now. Harry Watson. I can't remember now. But it was the ABT guide, right? With all the different articles on bream, bass, and possibly a little bit of barramundi. And I would read that when I had my breakfast every morning before school. Like I read it back to front. I would read the article that Darren Ball wrote about fishing deep for bream. There was articles with critiques in, and it ran through his, I can remember his gear, which was Daiwa Battlers, I think, and his Luvius reels. Like these are all like really, when I was reading it, this is stuff that like, these are the heroes, right? And this is the gear that they use. And this is the cool stuff. And you go to the tackle shop and you see that gear and you'd be like, I can never afford that. And Tim Morgan, like for me, Tim Morgan was like the epitome because you'd watch him on AFC and he'd do so well and just want to be like him. And the tackle shops that we had in Brisbane, no one stopped Milleroy's. So for me, they had this like prestige. I wonder what a Milleroy is like. So I was, every morning breakfast, I'd be reading that magazine. This got stained all over from my breakfast and cereal all through it. And then I can't remember exactly how it happened, but because back then, obviously no social media, this is 2006, forums were a thing. So Bream Master, Oz Bream, Fishing Monthly, and I regularly visit the Bream Master forum. And I reckon it's from there where someone may have suggested to enter as a non-boater, just to learn. And so I thought, let me give that a crack because I get to go fishing on a boat. How cool is that? I don't get to do that ever.
Oh, wow.
Not knowing what I was in for, I thought, let me enter. And I entered. I didn't know anyone. I knew no one in the fishing industry. I was just this kid that loved fishing. I entered. I convinced my parents to drive me down to the Gold Coast. My dad took me for the briefing on the Friday night. And I remember like being nervous as I'm quite an introverted person in general. So you can imagine 16-year-old me who was half the size of me, who I'm very small, with all these people that I look up to in these magazines and I've read about and watched. And so Tim Morgan's there and Steve Morgan, Chris Hitchens there, and you're like, holy moly. And they're all kitted up in their fishing gear and you're like, wow, I'm just in like normal people clothes.
That's right. Yeah,
I feel so out of place. And so I'm just standing there with my dad, just trying to avoid eye contact with anyone, and went through that. Got paired up with my boaters, and I fished my first pump. So that was at the Gold Coast in 2006.
Yeah. Wow! And at that point, how'd you pay for it? Do you have a job, or did you hit the parents?
No, I reckon I either saved or I convinced my parents or my mum, probably my mum, for some money to do it. So it would have been $110.
Yep.
And like, I probably have to convince him to lend me some more money to buy lures and stuff as well. For that, I would have had a pack of hot plastics and a pack of jig heads and 81 spool of leader. And I reckon I had just one rod with me.
Probably. And to the best of your memory, did you catch a fish?
Yeah. So I remember it very vividly. It was pretty funny because day one, the boat I drew, I forget his name, but we went up the Nerang River. So where the comp was held was at Paradise Point, which is like northern Gold Coast. And he had a small tinny at 4 meters with 30 tiller and a tiller electric as well, which even back then was odd. Already at that point, everyone else was in wood boat or down out electrics. Anyway, so I'm in like the slowest part of the field. I don't know this. I'm just like keen as to go fishing, right? So we head up the Nerang River, which is probably a 45-minute run in that boat.
Wow.
And we just fished canals and stuff, but I caught one legal. So pumped, caught that. And then weighed that in, which is, I remember walking up to the stage. I've been super nervous. Marcel was the weigh master telling him my name. I probably had to say it like 3 times for him to get it. And then day 2 was quite a stark difference because what happened was I was fishing with, my boater was Julian Gascoigne, who maybe some of the older listeners might not remember him, but he was a rep for Evinrude.
Okay.
I think E-Tex would have just come out around that time. So he was in a pro strike with a 150 E-Tex. And I've gone from the slowest boat in the field to now one of the fastest boats in the field. And I remember idling around. I have no idea what's about to happen. And there's other boaters talking to Julian saying, oh, your non-boater's going to freeze and he's going to have a hard time. I honestly have no idea what's about to happen. And I'm just like, it's a cool fast boat. What's it going to be like? Anyway, we go and I am not kitted up. This is winter. It's July. I'm just like wearing a thin jacket and some trackies and I froze like it was like he's doing probably 80 kilometers an hour or something like that, 90 maybe. And I'm just holding on for dear. Like I said, there's not much of me as well. And so it'd be very easy for me to just fly straight out. And it was cold and fast. I remember that. And we did the same thing. We went up the Narang River, caught a legal bream. And then there was some issues with the motor. I think it was playing up. And then I think he was a little embarrassed about it. So he just wanted to head back in so no one knew because he was the rep. And then we headed in early. I weighed my fish in early, I think. But yeah, I finished up with 2 fish down the bottom of the leaderboard. But I was that pumped with the comp and how it went and being able to fish on the boat. I was so excited to fish on the boat with people that know what they're doing and catching bream and casting at bream. And as soon as I got back, I signed up for the next event, which is at the Tweed River a month or so later from there.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Wow. For a kid to come through and, like you said, jump on a boat, fish with all your heroes, that must have been incredibly exciting. And you caught fish. Like so many people like myself got a donut first comp. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It was exciting. And now that you stay as a kid fishing with random people, it does seem strange that my parents let me go on boats with random strangers at that age, but I'm glad they did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So what was the progression then? So kid on the boat as a non-boater. How long did you fish non-boaters for?
Oh, that is a good question. For 5 or 6 years, I think. So after that first one, I loved it. I did the Tweed River event, which I didn't do any good either. And then the next year, there was a Gold Coast ABT and a Tweed River ABT again. The Tweed River ABT was first. I got 10 out of 10 that event. A lot of people did. The fishing was like red hot. It was very good. At this point, I had done a lot more bream fishing in between and was a lot more confident. Gulps were now mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And like gulp shrimps especially. So everyone was throwing gulp shrimps and you were able to basically dead stick gulps and catch bream, which made it a lot easier. So had just happened. That Tweed event was ridiculous. Like I think majority of the field caught 10 out of 10. There was fish everywhere. It was really cool. And I think I placed in the top 20, which I was really happy with. I did the next comp was the Gold Coast that year, and I remember I did really well on the day one and with Mark Mango. I was in the top 10 and then I choked and did no good. I was just so obsessed with it. And the next, or was it that year, I think I went to the Derwent as well.
Right. You went down to Tassie.
I went to Tassie. So I was in high school. I was in year 12 and it would have been 2007. I think that's right. And I convinced my parents to take me to Hobart.
You must be good at this convincing.
I know, right? And that was really cool. So fishing the Derwent, I got a 5 kilo bag on day one. So heard about this place, saw the results, obviously like really excited to go there. And again, don't really know anyone. I definitely don't know anyone in Tassie. Not many people from Brisbane makes the trip down. And so I go there. I'll tell you this story. This is pretty cool. My boater took me up to this bridge. So I don't know what the bridge is called, but we went upriver. And the tide was pushing quite hard, and he's fishing really close to it. So I don't think he was intentionally black boating, but the way he had to keep the boat in the position I didn't know much about it at the time. I'm just doing my own thing, casting wherever. And he pulls it back. I think I pulled a 32 centimeter bream, which I think he laughed at because back then Derwent was like known for the crazy giants. It still is, probably not as much. And I'm like, oh cool, caught my first black bream. Anyway, then the tide slowed and he just gravitated away from the pylons a bit. And I was able to actually cast at the pylons. And then within an hour, I put a 5 kilo bag in. I was like, it was crazy. I had that 32, it was like 36. These are all PBs for me, by the way. I think my biggest performance was 34. So it was like 36 to the 4, 36, 37. There was a 40. And I'm like, this is crazy. And so within that short period, I managed to put, I think it was 5.2 kilos, ended up getting a top 10 in that comp, which was my first top 10. And so I think the more I did it, the better I got. It's just more practice, get more confidence. Over that time, I had more lures, I had more confidence in the lures that I was using. And so as a non-boater, naturally you get better at it. As a boater, I suppose, as well. But I think the practice just really helps settle that in. And so from there, I kept in non-boater comps for, like I said, I think I did it for 5 or 6 years. I won a couple. I won Bradley Island twice. I won the Tweed River. And I was quite often in the top 10. So I loved it. Like I found something that I was good at. So I just wanted to keep doing it. It was awesome. And the trips away and all that, I was in uni at the time. So I had the time to do that stuff and travel and go down to Taree. And I did Tassie the next year. I did a Malakula Grand Final, Sydney Harbour. So I was able to do all these events, travel, go with people that I had now made new friends. And it was a really fun time. But obviously, the next step is always to go boat, and everyone would say, I have been doing it long enough and doing well enough that I had to make that step. So when I did get I bought a boat, which is a tinny, like I was really keen to start fishing at the boater. So that was 2011 or 12. I was 21, 22 around that time, and then started fishing as a boater and sucked at it majorly. Like it was complete.
Wow. Okay. So as soon as you're the captain, all the pressure's on you?
100%. Yeah. So it was a big shock. The first year or two as a boat, I did no good. In the ABT qualifiers, struggled. I think I had maybe some success in the teams events, but those first year or two in the ABTs was tough. I think I donated one comp at the Tweed, and I got one fish on day two, which was like really demoralizing for me because Tweed, I would consider myself pretty good.
Yeah.
And so there was a few of those events that were like, kicks in the nuts sort of thing and made me think I need to get better. Just because you're running the boat and make the shots doesn't mean you're actually going to catch the fish. I think what I ended up doing is paying more attention to the types of fishing styles that I was good at and fish those techniques more rather than trying to follow what may be trending or what other people have been successful with in the past.
Yeah. While you were talking there, I was thinking, what were the evolution of lures for you? You said you started off with a bit of gulps and what have you, and what were some of the things that kind of trended there in your successes and progression?
So early days was power baits. The 3-inch bass minnow was a staple.
Color choice? What was your favorite color?
Pearl watermelon, I like.
Yep.
That was my favorite. From there would have been gulps and deep chubby jackal chubbies. Right. So gulp shrimps, new penny. I reckon that was the one. I remember saved a bunch of money, bought 10 packs for $60. And jackal chubbies, brown silky shrimp, which I still use. I was using it fast wished at the very lure. Yeah. The gulp shrimps were a staple for quite a while there. For chubbies, Lucky Craft NW pencil, the top water I used to like using.
Yep.
I'm just trying to think what else we used back then.
What about blades? You must have got into blades at some point?
Yeah, do you remember? To be honest, for some reason, I feel like they were more popular south of Queensland. I don't know. It just didn't seem like a lure that got used a whole heap around our systems. You definitely did use blades and catch fish, but 1/8 ounce jigger and a gulp shrimp with a stinger was like the go-to for a long time there. Especially in the winter months and the fish spawning. 2 pound straight through, 1/8 ounce jigger, new penny gulp shrimp. Size 16, treble as a stinger. And man, that caught a lot of fish.
So you got a 1/8. What was your brand of hooks back then?
So it was TT, 1/8 ounce light wire for size 1 hook.
Yeah. With a stinger tied up. How'd you rig that up? Did you tie it off to the eye of the hook?
Tie a little bit of fluorocarbon to the eye of the hook and pin the treble on the tail. It didn't look pretty, but in comps, it just worked really well, especially those pressured comps where fish are spawning or are about to and are at the front of the system, the mouth of the system, and everyone's fishing in the same areas. And the fish are timid. That just seemed to work back then. This is all pre-Tranca crab days, so everything changed once that happened.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I was all gulps back then. Hey, I didn't really vary from it. I think a lot of anglers were. It seemed odd to then go back to a normal soft plastic after that. When the Z-Mans came on the scene initially they came on with some pretty crappy colors, like they were like black and white and not that appealing. But then when they released the 2.5-inch grub in the bloodworm color, I feel like a lot of people are actually eating catch fish on non-gulp lures now, and a lot of people moved that way, myself included. What other lures were there back then? So that was probably a bit after, so that would be 2012, 13.
Yeah.
And then the crab came, and that was the game changer. And I've got a funny story with that. So when Steersy releases, I was sponsored by Cranker prior to that, or leading up to that. And so I used the cranks a lot. And Steersy released the crab, and he announced it on Bream Master, because not Facebook. Well, Facebook wasn't that big back then, or for fishing anywhere. But I remember the poster on Bream Master. And I think it was just before the After Tackle Show. Anyway, I was going to help them set up at the tackle show. I picked them up from the airport that trip. And so I was there when they released it, showcased it, and everyone, like, it blew their mind. People were in awe of it. And I remember some people being like, oh, that's not going to work. That looks, it's not as good. People said, how wrong were they? It did better than what any of us had ever imagined it was going to do. Anyway, so that he released it there, and then that was mid-year, and then the end of that year there was an ABT team's grand final at the Gold Coast. So I'd asked Steersy, I'd qualified and he had qualified. I asked him if he wanted to fly up and fish it with me. So he came up, and he didn't have the production models in yet, but he had handmade a bunch of the same as the early prototypes. So he spent, I don't know how long, a week leading up to the comp, hand making these lures and pouring them and painting them. So he had about 20 or 30 crabs that he brought up.
Wow, handmade
Crabs. So we were going to fish them in this comp. So I picked them up. We went and fished the Tweed, and it was like, holy hell, this thing was crazy. Like he was like hesitant to let me use them. He was casting them up in mangroves and watching big fish come out, eat them, which like just didn't happen. The reaction to fish was crazy. Reaction by the fish was crazy. He ended up catching a 94 centimeter flathead on one, which was like this absolute monster. I've never seen one that big still. And then we fished the comp. So I'm pretty sure it was the first comp where crabs were used, which is really cool. And Steersy caught our biggest fish on them. Again, we didn't know how to fish them, like how to fish them properly either, right? Like we would just, you just chuck it in and see what happens, like a plastic. So we were just learning as we went. I think we caught most of our fish on them, to be honest. It was really cool. And then that comp finished. Steersy gave me a handful of the leftovers because I had the Bribey Island ABT grand final the following weekend, or might have been a couple of days later. So that was the boulder, non-boulder one. So I had a handful of them, and I was able to, I think I put a couple of fish in the well with them there as well. Very cool.
Wow, that's very cool. I didn't know there was actually pre-production ones handmade. That's the first time I've heard that. So.
Yeah, I'm sure Steersy will add more to it. I don't remember how he made them. I think he made the molds and he was pouring them by hand. They looked good. They were really good. They worked 100%, just like the other one. I had one up until recently because I kept one of them. It was absolutely mangled and messed up. But yeah, it was cool to be part of that early history of the crab, because that lure like absolutely changed bream fishing and how much we spend on bream fishing as well.
100%. But it's crazy because that crab's not only caught fish in Australia, it's caught fish all around the world and all sorts of different fish that it wasn't really built for. I assume it's being built for bream. So
it's cool to see because you get a lot of lures that come and go that are very realistic and you think they're going to do really well. Well, they end up flopping. There's a lot of brands that after every year you'll see a lure that looked exactly like a squid or exactly like a mullet, like it's bang on, but it doesn't end up being as successful. Whereas the crab, it does that and it catches as well.
Yeah, and like you've been fishing a long time now. In my opinion, sometimes lures, they come at like the fish get used to them or they stop biting on them or whatever, and lures come and go. Whereas the crab has just kept producing and it still produces big fish in almost the same format. Yeah, sometimes people might go to a big crab rather than a little one, but you still catch fish on them.
Yeah.
Which is just incredible. So.
Yeah, I haven't really done a lot of bream fishing in the last 10 years, I think. Like it's been on and off. So to be honest, I haven't really done a crab much in that time as well, but I still see the results from the comps and I still watch Morgo fishing on live streaming. Everyone still uses the crabs, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's been going that long.
Exactly. In terms of the competitions, what's one of your favorite memories of a win or something in particular that would come to mind?
Not a win, a good result, but so that Bribey Island Grand Final, So I love fishing Bribey. Like, it was my favorite place to fish. I always did well there. I won twice with a non-boater. We had good results in team comps. There was this flat that I loved to fish. Everyone knew I loved to fish it. It got flogged, but I just always did well there. Just whatever reason, I knew the right drift lines or whatever it was, but I'd always have good success. So Bribey Grand Final, I was like super keen. And so I pre-fished that spot. I remember pre-fishing that spot. I was throwing minnows, no hooks, and there was just fish all over it. And so I was like, yeah, cool. And went up the canals. I was throwing the crabs in the canal, caught the odd fish, but I knew my plan. I'm going there flat and I'm just going to stick it out, and whatever happens. That's what I know there. I'm just going to do what I know. And as I was saying before, like when I started fishing to my strengths, I did a lot better. And shallow flats I just love fishing it. Day one, had a good session there, and I think I got to 7 to 8 kilos, which ended up putting me in first place. So
wow, nice.
Here I am leading the Bream Grand Final, which was like, I was super nervous because like I've never been in that position before. I've done okay in qualifiers leading up to that point, but Bream Grand Final, that's a whole different kettle. And everyone was stirring me up the night before. I remember someone mentioning that no one's ever won a grand final after leading on day one, which I was thought, that's a nice thing to tell someone.
That's right. Thanks for that.
Yeah, exactly. But we had a good group of people in the house, had a lot of fun. And then day two, I got about 2 kilos, dropped a couple of spots. And then day three, the weather just completely changed. Anyone that fished that event will remember, I reckon it blew 30 to 40 knots up the passage. And I'm in a 4-meter tinny. And in the morning, we had to move the launch because there was a waves breaking on the ramp. So we ended up moving over to a more sheltered area. And everyone else is in bigger boats. They're all safe. I'm in this 4-meter tinny and I get an observer as well. So I'm like, oh man, I'm going to drown. I was this young guy. And so I think I was sitting in the top 5 from memory. And I'm like, I just got to get to my flat, which is not far. I could see it from the start line, but the waves are like crazy. So I get over there and we start fishing, but it's like completely different spot now. It's completely mudded up. There's heaps more water. There was sharks swimming around. Like, it's just completely changed. Caught a couple of fish, went in the canal. I think I caught one more. Didn't end up doing that well. And then as I'm about to head back, I see Steve Eldred. He's about to head back as well. He's in a big boat and he looks and he goes, I don't think you're going to get back because the tide turn is now wind against tide. I'm like, oh, cool. We start heading back and it was probably the roughest water to this day that I've driven through. And probably the only time in my life where I've actually been scared in a boat driving through water. And Bribey Island, that passage, it doesn't look that treacherous, but big tide, wind against tide, it got quite bad. So I ended up 5th in that comp, which I was really excited about, to get 5th place in a Bream Grand Final, which was cool. A lot happened that weekend. It was a fun weekend to lead after day one, catching fish on vet minnows in the Grand Final. And I had really good non-boaters as well. I had Jim Ziegler and Declan Betts.
Declan Betts?
Non-boater. Yeah.
Wow.
He put fish in the well. And we had a lot of fun too. So it was really cool.
Was that where you got back then? Was the combined weights?
Yeah, that's right. It was a shared weight. Both days, I think my non-boaters helped fill the bag as well, which is cool. So it was good. Good weekend. Lots of memories. Yeah, it was good. Definitely. That was definitely the one I look back at. I for a long time, I was pretty tough that I didn't get the win after sitting in first because the boat was a bass cat, has birth prize.
Oh.
So it was like, I never had a chance. I was way off anyway. Yeah, you can help. You can dream.
Exactly. And also, you do never know. Like, sometimes it happens. So
That's right.
Very cool. All right. Through all of this, you end up jumping in a boat, but your fishing took a little bit of a different direction at some point. Tell us about your electronics, because you've definitely moved in a much different direction in the last decade or so. Tell us about the first sounder setup you had.
Yeah. So first sounder. So when I got that boat, it was a 4-meter tinny, but I spent a fair bit in making sure that it was set up well. I wanted it to be good, had a nice electric, and I wanted a good sounder and the deck layout, everything to be the way I wanted it to be. So I bought this sounder, which was a Humminbird. It was like a 798 or 789 side imaging sounder with map, and it was color. So back then, there was still black and white sounders.
Yeah.
I think I bought this one, was about $1,200, which was a lot for a sounder then.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, I got the sounder. And I actually remember the reason I wanted that sounder was because I watched this video on YouTube where Sean Clancy and Tim Morgan were showing how to use side scan. And they were up the Narendra River on the Gold Coast, and they went past this rock bar, and you could see the rocks on the side scan, and you could mark where the rock was on your GPS. So then you could go and drive your boat over to that mark and fish that rock. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. That's awesome. I want to do that. So that sold it for me. So when it was time to buy my sounder, that's the sounder I bought. But I had literally no idea how to use it. Like, I probably had it for about a year, 18 months. I don't think once it ever helped me catch a fish because I just didn't know what it was showing me or how to interpret it. Fast forward probably, so at the end of that, I decided to spend more money on another sounder, hoping that it's going to help me catch fish, which really, it was me that was the problem, not the sounder. So I bought Lowrance had just released the touchscreen model. So this is the first touchscreen sounders now. They look really cool. I bought one of them, and it was bigger. So it was 7-inch. So I had a 5-inch screen, and if anyone's had a 5-inch screen sounder and tried to look at side imaging on it, it's terrible. Like, it's a bad idea. Don't do it. Because the screen condenses the information so much that you just cannot tell what's going on. So now I've got a 7-inch widescreen, and all of a sudden side scan is awesome, and now I can see so much more.
Yes.
And so I'm out in Moreton Bay. I am getting better at learning how to use it, but I still haven't cracked it. Like, what hadn't happened yet was I hadn't seen fish, casted, and caught them. That was like the missing link for me, because then that kind of solidifies the whole understanding the sounder.
Yeah.
So I'm out in Moreton Bay. I'm fishing near this wreck, and I know that this spot holds good fish. You catch jewel and snapper and stuff there. So I usually just trip past, blind cast, and if I catch one, if not, whatever. There's no like rhyme or reason to it. I don't know if the fish are there. I'm driving past the wreck. As usual, don't see much. I keep going past it, and there's no other structure around the wreck. But as I'm going further past, I see something on the right-hand side of the side scan, and it's 3 or 4 blobs. And I'm like, that's fish, because I know there's no rocks here. I've scanned it that many times. That's got to be fish. So I put the boat into gear, stand up, grab my rod, make a cast, and I come up. The current was coming back towards me, the right-hand side. So the lure starts sinking down. I'm watching the line go down, and it hits the bottom, almost exactly where I had sounded those fish, and I hook up. And awesome run, good fight. And I catch a 74 centimeter snapper, which was my PB. And I think before that, the biggest I caught was maybe 50 centimeters or something. So it was a big jump. And I was like, holy moly, this is crazy. What just happened? Right? It was just like, I saw it, I cast it, and I caught it. And so that moment, it was like, that was the turning point. It clicked. I'm like, all right, I need to go find more of that so I can repeat that again. And I think that's part of when it's probably part of the reason why my bream fishing took a back seat and I got more interested in all the other stuff that we have here in Queensland.
Sure. And in terms of those target fish, what do you like to chase?
Oh, there's so many things. Leading on from that snapper, fishing in a similar area, I started finding schools of mulloway jewfish. So I'd go out to this one spot, and on occasion you would find schools of 100, 200 fish, like massive schools, like stuff that I don't see much these days, but I dream of that stuff now because it was just like epic fishing. The first time we found them, we caught 17 jew. I had to leave because I had to go to work. It was just mental. And it was like just one of the best morning fishings I've ever had. And so when I learned how to understand my side scan well enough that I knew when there was fish there, when there wasn't fish there, I knew to keep looking, or I guess I was able to put together, what's the best way to say it? Like, I had that confidence now that if I see fish, I knew that I could go and target them and catch them. Whereas before, I might have seen it. I think it was a fish. I don't really know. It looked like a shadow. I was asking those kind of questions, and I'd task it like more of an inquiry than anything, and so I'm not really confident in what I'm doing. But then it changed to now being able to, there's the school of Drew. I need to cast my lure here. The tide's going this way. My boat needs to be here, and then my lure is going to set that school of fish. And that was what I would practice and get better at, so I could get good at it. So the next time I go out, I would be able to do that exact same thing quicker and more efficiently. So that I love chasing Jew. And then snapper, I do a lot of offshore snapper as well. Similar sort of thing, learning how to use my sounder, finding fish, positioning my boat so that I could then put the lure in the right spot to catch them. And longtail tuna, which is probably less sounder work, but fun to chase in Moreton Bay, just busting up on the surface and causing all sorts of chaos. And the other fish we chase a bit, the threatened salmon, which really cool, fun fish to target. Big fish fight really hard. They pull a Jew backwards, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So from that process of going and seeing a fish on the side scan and being able to present your lure to it, so in a way that it gets to it, how did you go about learning how to do that? Because obviously there's a bit of skill there, because it's hard enough to read the sounder, let alone know where to cast your line.
Yeah. I put a lot of that would be just practice, time on the water. I was at that stage of my life, I was at uni. I would set up all my classes to start in the afternoons.
Okay.
So my earliest class would be 1 p.m. If the weather was good, I was out fishing in the morning. So I was able to fish quite a lot back then, and I was able to fish midweek when there's no one else around. So that opportunity was there for me to go fishing more often in better conditions with less boats around and just fish. So I put a lot of time in on the water and I think that period of my life where I was fishing that much, I learned a lot about my sounder. That's where I got my confidence in how to use it, because I relied on it. I would go out and we wouldn't cast until we saw a fish on the sounder.
Right.
So that may mean you drive around for a couple of hours before you see a fish, but I have that confidence that if I don't see them there, then I know they're not there. So I had the trust that I knew what the sounder was showing. It's not lying. It's not making up stories. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. So I just keep looking. And then I would come across this school of snapper or threatened salmon or Jew or whatever the fish you were chasing. But it was so worth it because you're looking for big schools of fish as well. And with side scan, you can do that. So you're not just looking for a fish here or a fish there. It's like, I'm looking for 50 of them there. And when there's 50, it's a lot easier to catch one than when there's one and you're trying to target that one fish. So we're looking for these big schools, and you catch back then when the fish probably weren't as pressured and side scan probably wasn't utilized as much by the angles as now. Those fish wouldn't move. You could sit there and just keep casting, keep catching fish. So it was worth it. You might have spent 3 hours in the morning looking for them, but when you find them, like, it's stuff that you dream about.
Wow. Okay. And you stuck with Lowrance throughout that period. So if you're out there, say you're looking for your big schools of mulloway or whatever, are you just running a grid pattern, looking for them and then marking them when you see them? Or do you just go, okay, there they are, and you keep following them around?
Yep. So so specifically for mulloway, for example, what I've found is they've got a pattern that they like to follow. So mulloway, they like structure that they can hide in. So when I'm talking about mulloway, I'm talking about the schools of mulloway that I like to chase. So I'm talking about schools of 50 plus.
Wow.
This theory doesn't really apply to, says, individual fish. This is more big schools of fish. So they like cover. They need somewhere they can hide. But it's not a rock. It's not a drop-off or a snag. It has to be big enough that 50 or 100 of them can fit in it, because then they're safe. So there's sharks around. So mulloway they're not the top of the food chain, right? They feel threatened. So my theory is that they also need to feel safe. And in the middle of the day, they don't want to just be out in the open because that's dangerous. So they need somewhere where they can hide and feel safe. So I look for structure that can hold. When I'm looking for a spot, I have to ask that question: can 50 mulloways fit in that spot? If not, then they're probably not going to be here. So I look for structure like that. So wrecks are really good. Bridges are really good. Wharves are really good. If there's a big, like, cave or rocky type structure, that a natural structure that could hold them, then yes, that would work too. That's the kind of structure I'm looking for.
Yeah, right.
I'm looking. So that's the third part of the equation. The second part is the spot has to have current. It could be a big wreck in an area that gets no flow. They're not going to be there. So it needs to have current, needs to have bait coming past, and it needs to be deep enough. So it needs to be more than 8 meters. If it's too shallow, again, they feel scared. They're not safe there, they're not going to be there. So it's got to have the depth there. So there's a few things, like it's like a formula. If you can work that formula out, and those are spots that are likely to hold those fish.
Yeah.
Not always guaranteed. Like I've found spots I thought would be prime, but the fish haven't eventuated. And I've found spots where I haven't seen them, and then a year later I have as well. So I think they might go through phases of where they hang around. So when I'm heading out, I have a run of spots that fit this criteria. So usually that's in Moreton Bay. Sometimes that might be in the Brisbane River or in other parts, maybe off the Gold Coast. And what I'm doing is I've got those marks on my sounder, and those fish will normally be about 150 meters around the spot. So if there's a wreck, as I say, 150 meter radius, they're going to be in that zone if they're there. If they're not, then they might be somewhere else. But if they're in that spot, in that zone, they're around there. And usually they're down current of the wreck. So I know roughly where they should be before I get to that spot. If I'm approaching that spot, the way I normally do it is, these days, stealth is really important. So if I know the current's running in, I'm stopping up and I'm drifting with the current or using my electric to sneak up on those fish.
Sure.
Back in the day, you could go full noise on top of them, motor on, drop a jig straight down on their head and you cap them. Well, you can't do that anymore. They're smarter. So you've got to play that finesse and stealth game. And that's where brim fishing, to be honest, I reckon it's helped me a lot, because I have that skill set from doing that exactly the same thing from brim.
Sure. And when you're going out in 8 meters of water, chasing these, how wide are you shooting?
So I run my sounder in feet. So I would generally scan 120 feet. That's like my starting point.
Yeah.
120 feet you can normally see in most depths, unless you're in like a meter of water, you might struggle. But anything deeper with your frequency set to 455 kilohertz, you'll be able to see that 120. Yeah. My thought process is I like to scan as wide as possible, because I'm either looking for a big structure like a wreck or a big cave or something massive, or I'm looking for a big school of fish.
Yeah.
All of those are going to stand out regardless of how wide my range is.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for a single fish, like if I was targeting single Jew or single barramundi, for example, then it would make sense to dial in your range so you get more detail. But because I'm looking for big things or large schools, I like to see as far as I can, so I can cover as much ground as I possibly can. So what I do is I'll set it at 120 as a starting point. And if I'm in 30 feet of water, that's good. If I'm at 50 feet of water, I might go to 160, 180 feet even.
Right.
Basically, I'll go as far as I can before the little black lines start showing up on the screen. So when it fades out, then obviously that's too far, and just bring it back in. Yeah. And the next thing is what I'll do is, on Lowrance, you can do this. I'm not sure about the other brands. I think you can. Is on my map, I'll set an overlay for my side scan. So what that does is it shows your side scan on your mapping. There's not enough detail to actually see anything, but what it does is it gives you like this thick blue line behind your boat, or whatever color your side scan is, of where you've been. Yes. So then I use that to track and see, to make sure I'm not doubling up on areas or missing areas. So I can thoroughly cover an area and not miss anything, because it happens where these fish, they only have to be a meter outside of your beam and you will not see them there. You could go past the school of your life and not know that you've missed them because they're just outside the beam. So in that 150 meter radius that I mentioned, I will try and cover that as thoroughly as I can to make sure that I've done the best I can to look for those fish in that spot.
Yeah, wow.
The thing with the Jew, and why I probably wouldn't use it as much, is because whilst the Jew are structure orientated in that they'll sit by that wreck, they're always around it, not necessarily like in it as much or holding tight to it. Most of the time when you're targeting them, you're well off the wreck. It's very rare that they actually are in there for a reason. They just like having, I guess, the security of knowing that if things go bad, they can run in and hide from whatever predator or boat or whatever it is that's threatening them.
Yeah. All right. And one more thing on the mulloway. If you're targeting these, what are some of your go-to baits or lures that you use to target them?
So I find that when they're schooled up, they aren't very fussy on the lure. Your lure selection is more about getting it to the fish. So when there's a lot of current, you want a lure that you can get down quick enough. So this fish will, obviously there's a current that you're working with, but the fish are often moving as well. So you want to be able to get in front of them before they've gone past. These fish also aren't feeding fish. They're just chilling out, hiding, whatever, taking a break. They're not going to move. They will very rarely move it in for the lure. You've literally got to put it in its mouth so that he barely has to even think about it. He's just got to go, and it's in.
And it falls in there.
Correct. So you're trying to do, that's where the boat positioning comes into it, because a lot of it's about making sure that lure is right there. They're not, if you're here, if you're a meter in front of his face, he's not going to eat it. You've got to put it in its mouth. So I'm normally using lures like micro jigs, so 50-gram jigs. I'm using soft vibes. So my favorite is the fish trap, which is about 20 grams. And then if I'm using soft plastics, I'll go with a 1/2 ounce or even a 5/8 ounce jig head, so quite heavy.
Wow.
There are times when they are more finicky or hesitant to eat. Those are the times that I'll be using soft plastics. And probably a 1/2 ounce or maybe even a 3/8 ounce, which is slightly more hang time in front of them so they can eat. But if there's current flow, if they're moving fast, most of the time I'm going for a soft vibe. That's my go-to generally, because it seems quick. It's a finesse enough presentation in front of them, and it just works well.
Okay. One of the questions, because I've chased mulloway a bit, why a fish trap? Why not a samaki or a jackal or something else? What's your go-to there?
So the reason so I've used fish traps for a while, and partly because Trans Ams were like super expensive back then. So I think it would have been like $30 compared to 15 or 16, whatever a fish trap was, and a uni student's budget doesn't allow for Trans Ams most of the time. Samakis came on to the scene after the fish traps, and I was just I knew they worked, so I would always just stock up on the fish traps. You'd have to double check this, or I can double check this, but I think the fish trap is slightly heavier than the samaki. I'm pretty sure the fish trap's 23 grams and the samaki 20, and that might be why I was hesitant. But yeah, the fish trap swim good. They were also readily available. So where I didn't have a dedicated tackle shop near me, it was just a BCF. So if I can go to BCF and get the lure I need, then it makes it a bit more easier to get. So they always had a good range of colors and seemed to be easy to get for me. So I just went with them, and they're often be on sale, so you get them pretty cheap too.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So now, obviously, being the Bream Fishing Project, what about side scan and that sort of stuff for bream? Have you got any tips for us?
Yeah. So if we go back a bit, when the biggest sounders first started making their appearance on boats, so like the first HCS 12s came out, people were getting them and not using them. Like they would just be on map screen. Like you'd go past a bass boat, have two 12-inch units, and it's just got mapping and 2D sonar. People weren't really using side scan that much. And a lot of it is because a lot of anglers are structure orientated. They just go on fish visible structure, and that works for them, so that's fine. But what I found is in Brisbane, Gold Coast, side scan worked really well for finding schools of fish when they were spawning. So yellowfin bream, East Coast, they're going to be at the mouth of the systems in the winter months. And so you can quickly find where the schools are by using side scan. The trick is that you just need to make sure your range is not set too far wide, because like I said before, when we're looking for big schools of jewel, that's easy on a 180-foot range because these fish are like a meter long. So they stand out, right? When you're looking for fish, especially on the East Coast, that are like 25 to 30 centimeters, it's different. So you got to reduce the range. So now you're instead of going 120 feet, you're more looking like 80 feet or 60 feet even, so that you can see them. If the schools are big enough, you can go wider. So sometimes you can go to that 120 and still see them. And I think a way to explain that might be, if, for example, you took a grain of rice and chucked it on the floor right now where you are in front of you, it's going to be hard to see that, right? But if you took a bucket of rice and chucked it, you'll see it. So it's the same for bream. When they're schooled up, they're obvious. There's heaps of them. It's easy to see. If they're not schooled up, you're not going to see the ones and twos here and there. That's when your range would have to be dialed in to get that detail. But if it's, for example, the winter months and you're looking for big schools, then you can afford to go the bigger range. So for anyone that's not really used side scan much for bream, I would highly recommend you do keep it on. If you don't understand it much, or you haven't used it or you're not confident with using it, a good way to practice that I've found me a lot is drive past structure that you know. So a good one is a bridge pylon. Is go past the bridge pylon with your side scan, see how it shows up, see when it shows up. So at what point when your boat passes that pylon, does it actually show up on your sounder? Because you got to remember that your transducer is at the back of the boat. So it's only going to start seeing stuff basically as you pass it. So you're going past it, then the pylon's going to show, then you're going to see the shadow behind it, then you'll see the next pylon, and so forth. Do the same with channel markers, that's a good one. Rock bars that you know, and start understanding how your sounder is showing the things. So you can connect what's in your brain with what you think is down there to what the sounder is actually showing. So that one is a good way for me to start putting the two together. And the other thing is to just use it. Side scan is really good for schools at Bream. I've had a few comps where in wintertime I'd be fishing in the Broadwater, so Gold Coast, where the fish would school up. And you can easily just do passes through areas that you know hold fish and see where they are. And then you can literally just go and target those spots, as opposed to drifting a whole wall or a whole bank way to find those fish, which we do by using side scan and actually targeting those areas. You can just sit where the fish are and don't waste time doing that elsewhere. So I remember there was a comp I did where I was able to use that technique, but what I did was, instead of just drifting like everyone else and encounter school fish, I'd go and look for schools, and then I would just up my jig head weights, spot lock, and just try and send it down as quick as I can to those fish in that current. And that worked really well. Side scan definitely has a place in bream fishing, even though they're smaller fish. I think it's definitely worth something. If you haven't used it much, most boats will have a sounder that's capable of side scan these days. It's very rare to find one that does it.
Yeah.
Use it. It's honestly, it's completely changed the way I fish. And if you're not using it, I feel like you're missing out.
Yeah, and as like you said before, we talked about before, is, okay, you're seeing the fish, you're seeing the little grains of rice, but you're also seeing the structure. You're seeing out to the left, there's a boat hole, particularly for bream. If they're bream around, they're probably going to be on the boat hole, I would imagine. So
that's right.
You're a chance of targeting that directly.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example. Like, not even talking about fish, but just using it to find structure where the fish will be. Because quite often, if you found a rock bar, for example, the bream are so tight to it, they're hard to actually see. So smaller fish like bream, sometimes smaller snapper, and even mollyweight sometimes, when they're tight on structure, it can be hard to actually see the fish if it's a big rock bar. So just identifying where the structure is and still fishing it like you would normally, you're at least putting your lure in productive areas, as opposed to just drifting through an area and hoping you encounter the structure or the fish.
Okay, so all of this is really good to talk about. There's lots of techniques on how to use your side scan, how to use your sounder and all this. But in your experience in doing this, you've come together and created a platform where people can go and do some sounder courses. And this is part one of the things we're going to talk about. But you've put together a sounder course. Why don't you tell us about that and how that can benefit people trying to work it out, rather than just going out and spending hours and hours on YouTube looking it all up and trying to work it out? You've condensed it into a couple of courses.
Yeah. So about 18 months ago, we have this idea to build a platform where we can educate anglers, but make it such that it's somewhere that it's trusted information, because there is so much information out there. I know for example, if I try and look up if I want to learn a new skill, let's say I've been doing a lot more videography lately, so I watch video and videography on YouTube. There's so much information on how to do it. And there's 70 different people telling you 70 different ways to do it. And the problem is they're all right. And
yes.
So how do you know which one to do for you? And so that's what I found for a long time. Whenever you try and learn something, there's just so much different opinions, and they said they're all right. No one's telling you the wrong thing. They all have their right intention. They're all trying to teach you something, but not all of it. It doesn't always work for you. And then it's hard to I get frustrated and anxious just thinking about all these different ways of doing it that I end up not doing any of them at all. So I want to replace that. You could just go, you know what? I trust this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn the thing, and I'm going to be happy with that result. Or I'm going to get the result I was after. That's what I wanted to do with my fishing coach. So that's the business that we built. And a bit of a backstory on that. Part of the reason why we wanted to build it is, during my fishing journey, I stumbled across a few different fishing courses. So barramundi was a fish I wanted to learn more about, but was not sure how to enter that space because it was like all I heard back then was they're tough fish, 1,000 casts, all that kind of stuff. So it's like, where do you start? So I did a course on catching barramundi, and I learned a lot. And I went out and I caught a barramundi, and I was like, this is awesome. I did the thing, learned how to do it, and I was like in my head. I remember the moment it happened, it was really cool. And then I was like, I want to do more. So I did another course on barramundi. I did another course another online course on something else. And I wanted to keep doing it, but there wasn't that much out there for someone like me in Southeast Queensland who chases the fish that I'm chasing. Even if you wanted to chase brim or flathead, there wasn't a place where someone who has the run on the board can teach. So I was like, why not? So one day, like I work at 9 to 5 and I'm like over it. And how do I come up with an idea to get me out of this grind? And I want to do something that's fishing related. And I've constantly thinking that every morning in the shower, I'm trying to come up with another idea, right? And I thought, I've got to do something. And then one day I shifted my view and I thought, I keep asking this question, but I'm sure there's other anglers asking the same question themselves. How do they do it? So I thought, how do I come up with a way that I can help them do it? So the idea was we work with people to build these courses and help them. It would provide an income stream for these anglers because we're selling these courses. And also it reduces that barrier for them to share that knowledge that is otherwise kept quite close to people's heads. So
Sure.
that was the premise given what we do. So we wanted to create this platform where we can remove that gatekeeping and give people access to some of the information that otherwise just dies. We just at the start, one of the best courses was a sounder course that I did because that was something that I was confident in, and I had done a lot of teaching with that in the past. So I've done a lot of talks at boat shows and written plenty of articles on how to read sounders. So it was something I was confident doing. So my course specifically focuses around 2D sonar, downscan, and side scan. So it's about how to understand what they are. So whether you're a beginner or intermediate, it covers the basics and then walk through how to set it up, the settings, what the different features are, the frequencies, the colors, all the little bits and pieces on your screen that can be adjusted, how to and if you should adjust them, how to use your side scan, and then also runs through how you can take that knowledge now and apply it on the water so you can actually catch more fish. So one of the parts that I really wanted in the course was how to actually go and find a new spot, how to use a sounder. And you're in a new arena. How do you then go and apply that knowledge to find where are there any wrecks there, or is there any rock bars in the middle of this waterway? Or how do you find those kinds of spots? Part of the course was about teaching people how to do that, because I think that's a really important skill. If you want to travel up north, for example, on a holiday and you want to do fishing and chase reds or whatever fish, I think there's certain skills you need to have with your sounder can give you to actually find those fish. So that's what I wanted to do with the course. And yeah, so that course has been live for a bit over 6 months now. We started a bit over a year ago.
Yeah. Okay. And that'll help people from all sort of stages in the 2D side scan setup. So someone who has no idea could jump on and take advantage of that. And someone who's got a bit of an idea that wants to hone their skills, would that be accurate?
100%. So it's quite basic for people that are early on in their fishing or sounder journey. But I think some of the later techniques and specific stuff that I go through with side scan, in particular, how I use it to break down spots and find new spots, that I think is quite advanced, which would help people that have experience or are further on in their fishing journey. Yeah.
Sure. All right. And we'll come back to this, but where can people find that particular course? Where do they go to?
Yep. So you go to our website. It's called myfishingcoach.com. And there should be a button called courses, and you'll see my big, beautiful face there, and you just click that one there.
Very good. Very good. All right. That kind of brings us to the second part of this story and how we got connected through the forward-facing sonar. Let's call it a movement. Obviously, Steve Morgan is in Australia, is one of the guys at the forefront of that. Tell us the story about how you guys got together. Obviously, you knew each other, but yeah.
We wanted to build a live sonar course. And I've used it a long time. Like I was probably one of the first people in Australia to have the Lowrance Active Target because I was part of the Lowrance team. So I had access to it early. I've been using it basically since then. I consider myself pretty good at it, but I'm definitely not a gun. Waldo has consistently shown he can use it for brim, barra, bass, threadfin salmon, jew, and everything else that he fished for. So he was like the guy I wanted to get to do this course, because I feel like if he talked about it, he's got so much to teach, and he's an excellent presenter. It's like perfect. So I was hesitant because I was a bit scared he's going to say no. And I was umming and ahhing whether I should make contact. And one day I just messaged him and I said, hey, let's do this course. And he goes, yeah, let's chat about it. And I'm like, holy shit, this is happening. And it was around the time of after last year. So I think it was June or July last year. Anyway, we had a quick chat. He's a very busy man. As he said, yep, let's tee it up. And then that was it. And then I got a message one night and he said, let's catch up. I was out for dinner with my family and he said, let's go for a fish tonight at midnight. Because he fishes at night a lot. So here I am like, okay, I definitely have to go here. I'm pretty tired, but we'll make it work. So I got home, had a quick nap, which is probably a bad idea. And then I met him at the ramp at midnight. And so I'm thinking we're going to go out fishing. We'll talk about the course. I'll talk him into it, and happy days. So we go in the water. We're not talking about the course. We're just fishing. And we get to the first spot, and he's electricked around a bit, and he's found some jew. And it's a spot that I've fished from the land quite a bit, and I fished it from the boat as well. So I know the spot. I know how you catch the fish there. I know where they normally sit and all that. It's not new to me. So whatever, we're there. He's found some fish. He sees it on the mode on his Garmin. He's gone and he's gone, made a cast, landed it perfectly, slow roll, hooks up, fish on, and he fights it and gets it in the boat. And I'm like, oh, you to handle that? And he's like, no, I got it, you fish. So I'm looking at the screen, I'm going, all right, I can see the fish. I have my craft. I completely butcher the cast and think that I'm close enough. I didn't see the lure splash. I didn't know what I was doing. He comes back up. Mind you, in this time, he's unhooked the fish, tagged it, logged it, come back up, sorted his lure out. He's made the next cast while I'm still fluffing around, and he hooked up again. So he's two, and I'm looking up at him, I'm like, what's happening? Because I thought I knew how to use this tech, but I clearly have no idea, because I felt so lost. I honestly, I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't want to say anything to him. I just pretended like, yeah, I'm just whatever. I try to be a bit nonchalant about it, but deep down, I'm like, I'm really struggling here. I don't know what to do. I felt like I shouldn't even cast, because if I cast, I'm going to make a bad cast, and it's going to show bad. And so it was like within 10 minutes that happened, and I was like, you have to do this course. People need to see this, because that was ridiculous how much better you are than someone who thought they knew what they're doing with this trick.
Yeah.
I felt like a complete novice. So we ended up fishing a bit more. I caught a fish, but for me to catch a fish, there had to be like 20 jew in one spot, and I was able to catch one. So he probably went around looking for the easy school so I could catch one. Anyway, we had a chat. He was keen. We did the math. It was going to work, and we shook hands, and we set out to make this course. Took a little while to line up our time. Steve is, like I said, a very busy man. But late last year, we locked in some time to go and film it all, and it was awesome. Working with Steve, a great person to work with, excellent on camera, cameraman's dream, and the knowledge that he has with such minimal notes as well on the topic. He was able to talk so eloquently and to such detail, and honestly, I learned so much. When I was editing the course about a couple of months ago, I was that keen to go fishing. I just had this drive, like, he say something, I'm like, oh, of course, I completely missed that. And so, sidetrack, I like fishing threadfin salmon, but lately I've been struggling to catch them. And I think, because I use side scan most of the time, and the fish are quite flighty in the area, and I fish for them now, so you really need to be using forward facing for it, so that I use scout mode on my active target. But I'm just not. I have just been struggling to get it, and because those fish as well, they're like the mile away. They don't move much to eat a lure. You almost have to put the lure in the fish's mouth to get them to bite.
Right.
And so I've been struggling to get them to eat, and it's like really frustrating me, because I've gone trip after trip, and it's like having a rough time doing it. Watch the course, or as I'm editing the course, he's saying a few things that are to be in my head about how to make the right cast, where I should be casting, watching the lure splash down, a few small things like that. And it made sense and it seemed obvious, but something clicked in my head and I'm like, I need to go fishing. And so I went fishing and I started catching fish like instantly. And I was otherwise really struggling to do it. And I got 3:30s one morning before work. It was like really good. I went a week later, again, more success. I haven't been out since. I'm really itching to go again, but it was like instant proof for me. Like it helped me and solve a problem where I was struggling to catch these fish that I could see. It's easy to see fish on forward facing, like that is, anyone can do that. But getting them to eat your lure, that's the real challenge. And most of the fish you'll find on forward facing are like sluggish, lazy. If they're hanging around, they're not moving fast, they're not really in a feeding frenzy or anything, right? So you've got to convince this fish to eat. And in my opinion, no one is better than that than Steve Moore. And so learning from him on how to do that, how to convince a fish that doesn't want to eat your lure, doesn't want to feed, to eat your bait, that is a skill. And he has that, and he did it very well on the course.
Yeah. Okay. Fortunately, I've had the privilege of being able to run through this course, and I've seen, I reckon, 85% of it. So there's a couple of things that I want to point out that I think are valuable. First of all, you cover all the three major sounders brands in Australia. You've got the Hummingbird, Garmin, and Lowrance. He covers all those in details. He did a couple of things that I thought were really cool. He took each of those units and wiped them, went back to factory settings, showed you how to set it up, said, what does this do? What does that do? This is what I think. For me, that was one of the best things ever, because often after you play with your sounder for a while, you go, oh, I don't know what to do with it. So that was very cool.
Yeah.
One of the things that he emphasized multiple times was to say the purpose of your forward-facing sounder is to get your lure to the fish. You put those two things together. He mentions that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And that was just a couple of things. There was a tiny little bit on mapping, so not very much, but it was actually very good.
Yeah. And
So,
I think
yeah.
one of the things that I liked is anything that Steve spoke about, it had a purpose. And like you said, the mapping, he didn't talk much about it, but the stuff that he talked about in the mapping, even for me, I was like, oh, that's genius. Like, why haven't I done that already? So there's a lot of things in there. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Me too.
He's just very good at cutting to the point, but just talking about stuff that actually helps your fishing. And like you mentioned about the three sounder brands, that's another reason why I really wanted him to do it, because who else has got all three brands on them?
Yeah.
It's just easy. From my point of view, trying to do the course, he's the ideal person. I think for anyone that wants to learn how to use forward facing for any fish, like it honestly doesn't matter what you tell him yet, because he runs through all of them anyway. But it's just a perfect opportunity to learn or refine your skills to get a fish to eat your lure. Something so simple that I think forward facing sonar has made quite tricky, because we're now targeting these fish that are fussier and then more pressure now as well. He's making that quite easy and showing you the steps to do it. So I'm super excited about it. That's why I'm probably plugging it too much here, but I'm really excited about it. I've spent a lot of time listening to him talk about it. And so it added this element of excitement for me to go fishing and get better at it as well.
Yeah. And I think, like we said before, this is a Bream Fishing Project. And one of the cool things is he goes through and talks about how to catch bream on it. But if you look at a bream that is, a big one's 45 centimeters, if you can find that on forward-facing sonar, then chasing a meter barra has got to be a lot easier. So I think that's valuable in itself. Someone who's already mastered the small fish.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
and the cool thing is, you were just talking about it before, Steve just won the ABT at Tassie in the Huon River. And then, that's how you pronounce it, Huon.
That's correct.
And then the Derwent, he's come second. And then he comes second thanks to forward facing, catching that 44 for him. That's just like crazy. As a tournament angler, that's the kind of like skill set you need to, like, that's why he's so good. He knows that so well. If I was back in tournament fishing, that's something I would really push myself to get better at, because I think it gives you like one of those 1%ers that you can do, that you can control. That that's going to give you a 44 for 44 upgrade at the end of a comp. I think it's a pure world work. investing in.
Yeah, 100%. And as we all know, the investment in the sounders themselves is quite substantial in most cases.
That's right.
So investing in learning that tech has to be a sound investment if you've already put the money into the sounder.
Yeah, and it's forward placing sonar is not cheap. I think to set it up on a boat properly is between 5 and 10 grand, probably. Really, it's not a cheap investment. But people are doing it, right? People are keen, which is exciting to see. I think you're seeing more and more boats now with poles on their boat, or then mounted to their transducers, to their electric motor, and it's almost like when you would see boats with trolling motors back in the day. You wouldn't see many, and then you start seeing more and more. And I think we're starting to see the same with live sonar. Everyone's now got a second sounder on their boat. Everyone's got a pole, and they're learning more how to use it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. We're now seeing sometimes 3 sounders up the front, one at the console and potentially one at the back. Like, it's quite mental.
That's good.
So yeah, but yeah, look, for my money, it was very valuable, and unfortunately, I haven't been out on the water since watching it. But soon, I'll get it.
To give everyone context, so before we release a course, we get people to test the course. So we got you involved, Andrew. We've sent it to a few other anglers, people that are of all different backgrounds. So people that are experienced with it, people that have just got it, all the different brands as well. And so we had one guy do the course. He did it really quickly, went fishing, and he was messaging me. I would have been about a week ago. He went barra fishing, and straight away he caught one. Like, as soon as he got in the water, used what he learned, he caught one, and he was stoked. It was like 80 or 90 centimeters. And for me, that was awesome to see. And then about 10 minutes later, he gets another 1 meter plus.
Wow.
Barra, PV barra. And it's all, what he said, I haven't spoken to him since, but I'm keen to hear more, was because of the stuff that he learned in the course. So that's what we really do it for, to be honest. Like, we want people to be able to have those experiences and learn that skill set that they otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to. For me, that was the proof, and so I'm really excited that we'll be able to launch this course pretty soon. I've just got a few bits to fine tune on the edit, and we're good to go.
We're good to go. And to be fair, if people are listening to this now, the course will be within a week away if it's not already out, and we won't release this until right on the money. All right, mate. I thought before we move on from there, once again, where can people find these courses?
Yep. So myfishingcoach.com. And if you go to the courses page, you'll be able to see all our different courses. So we have a number of different courses. We've got a few that we're working on as well. And you can purchase the course online. You can view it there. You can see more information. You also have free resources. We've got sounder settings guides as well for people that need help with just some basic settings with a sounder. You can download that. It will give you Lowrance, Garmin, Humminbird settings, whether it's in traditional sounder, so side scan and down scan. We've also built one for live sonar as well. That's what Steve's own settings in there. So if you wanted that as well, that's available free on the website too.
Yeah, nice. That's worth checking out either way. All right. So, mate, as we wrap this up, mate, there was a barra that you guys caught in the course that I think is a particularly good story. You want to run us through what happened there?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, we filmed late last year. We did the bulk of it. After going through the edits of the course and talking to Steve about it, we felt we were missing a bit. And so what we wanted to do was go back on the water, and Steve wanted to take me to this area where he's caught barra before, and Molloway and other fish too. So I thought, cool. To be honest, it felt like a long shot because barra in Southeast Queensland is not it happens, but not regularly. So it could happen. Also, we could go all night, catch nothing. Also, again, we're fishing at night, so I'm filming at night. And so we get on the water and we're fishing. We've seen a few barra. They have no interest in coming anywhere near the lure. Like, they're pretty flighty. And we probably filmed on and off for about 2-3 hours. I fished for a little bit. Nothing was really happening. So I sat down to have a snack. And obviously, as soon as I do that, one of the barra decides it's going to crunch Steve's Samaki Reddick. And so he hooked up. And I missed the first part of it, which was really annoying because I would have loved to get the hit on camera. But anyway, got the rest of it. And that was really cool because I've never caught a Southeast Queensland barra. I've seen them around and my mate's got one, but I've heard Steve tell the stories about all of them. But to actually go out and watch him catch one in a river so close to Brisbane and to see so many of them as well. That was pretty eye-opening. And then watch him do the things that he's talked about in the course, using the lure, the same technique, that's line twitch, present his lure exactly the way he said. Like he said it, he talked the talk, he walked it, and then he put this a meter plus barrow in the boot. For me, that was awesome. Like that sealed the deal.
Yeah, wow.
Because now I after seeing that, seeing how he did it, he made it look very easy. Obviously, there's more to it, and I'll probably go and I'll donut 5 times before I crack one. But I left that, and even after editing and watching it again, just fills you with this confidence that you now know how to do it, and you've done it in a way that made it seem easy enough. So I really liked that. That was cool. I love Barra, and to see him catch one down the road basically from home, really, really cool.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting that you say that and tell that story. In my local on the Georges River, Captain Cook Bridge is a very well-known mulloway spot. And back in the day, I used to fish it quite a lot, but not so much at dark. But yeah, one of my plans is to go and put my Lowrance AT2 into, I can't remember what they call it, scout mode.
Yep.
And go and see if I can do exactly what Steve did on his bridges. And I reckon they're in numbers. Sometimes there's literally hundreds there.
Yeah, I'm really excited at that prospect because what forward-facing sonars opened up is, aside from all the stuff on social media with the barrow and the dams and all that stuff, is you can now find fish in areas that you never did before. So what Steve's been able to work out in his mulloway fishing, he's been able to find them in areas that are completely random. And even that barrow we caught, completely random spot, completely random part of the river, but he was able to catch really cool fish in that spot because of the forward facing sonar. And it just reminded me actually one fish that I'll mention before we finish up is I like mulloway fishing. Right? We've talked about that, and my best ever mulloway was a meter 23, I think. I should remember it for the size, but I caught it at one of the wrecks that I always fish for Drew, and I normally catch them about 80 centimeters to a meter. Is generally the size at school, right?
Okay.
And this is before forward-facing sonar. I'm fishing near the wreck. I'm drifting past it, and I can see on my 2D sonar, there's fish mid-water. So there's these arches mid-water and even higher, which is not what the Drew in my area do. Like they are normally dead tight on the bottom.
Okay.
But I'm not catching anything, so I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll try and get my lure to that depth. It's hard when you're in current to actually present a half bounce jig so plastic to that depth, but whatever. I did what I thought was about that right depth. And I'm working this lure midway. It honestly feels like a waste of time. And I hook up. Right. And surely not, this can't be anything that I want. Like, quite often we'll catch eagle rays in the spot because they'll normally sit high up in the water column. I thought it was that. I'm fighting this fish thinking, should I pop it? Like, it's not something that I want. And obviously, it turns out to be my personal best mulloway. And when I saw it, I freaked out and was frantic to get it in the boat and got it in. So that fish there was a loner. There might have been a couple there, but he was on his own and not doing what the other fish were doing. I just happened to see it on my 2D sonar because he went directly under my boat. If he was slightly to the right, I would never have seen him and I would have missed that fish completely. What forward-facing sonar does in scout perspective landscape mode is you can find those fish. And those are the fish that we've never been able to target before. So those big mulloway are cruising down the middle of a river. The Murray cod that are in the middle of the dam. The barramundi trees in the middle of the dam. I don't even know what else because we haven't gone that far down the road yet, but there's going to be so many more opportunities to find new ways to target fish those ways. Because like that mulloway, that big one, they cruise down, they drift for the current. I'm sure others will do that. Maybe snapper will do that. Maybe drift and salmon do that at night. I don't even know, but that's the exciting thing for me. And one of the things that when we finished Steve's course, and you would have seen it as well when he wrapped it up, he's talked about that as well, and it's put a lot of excitement back into my fishing, given me a lot to think about how we can use it in different ways.
Yes.
And I think that was a really cool way to finish it because there is this negative side that you see to forward-facing sonar. People say it's like shooting fish in a bucket, blah, 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 makes it easy, it's cheating. But one, I don't think the case at all, to be honest. It's frustrated more than anything else. But
Yes.
it's now created these new avenues to chase fish that we just did not know exist. Like, I did not know that you could drift through the middle of the dam and there'd still be meat at barramundi. In our heads, they're all on the edges and on
That's
the
right.
points. And I'm sure it's going to be the same with bream. And Steve proved that with, I think he had the comp win or did really well in Malakuta, where he found fish in the middle of the lake and caught them on the Prolo or hybrid strips.
That's right. Oh.
In the middle of nowhere. So it's opened up this avenue to be able to target different sorts of fish when the traditional edges or structure holding fish aren't there or aren't feeding. So that, I think, is really cool. And what I'm really excited to see is the other stuff that people catch. I'm sure someone in Perth is going to crack a different way to catch bream, or in Tassie on the Durham or wherever. There's going to be different ways that people find how to use forward facing in their system on their species. I think it's exciting to see what's coming next.
I think so. And just to extend on that, with when we used to fish the bridge pylons, you'd basically focus on the back of the pylons more often than not. But I would also throw the odd cast out into the edge of the light. So in between, right in the middle of the pylons. And in watching Steve's footage with the perspective mode, you could see that the fish weren't just stacked they were on the back of the pylon, but they were also free swimming in the middle. And we used to get them randomly. You go, okay, it was just a lucky one, but they're actually there quite a bit.
Yeah, it's crazy that when you've used it a bit now, you think about all those times those random casts you made that you caught a fish on, and now they're random. There's always a reason or to where the fish are, and now it's helping us unravel that a bit as well.
All right, mate. Look, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on. I've appreciated hearing about your evolution through fishing from non-boater from a kid on a pier to non-boater to boater to sounder and electronics professional. Mate, is there anyone, before we shoot off, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I guess there's a bit there, because we've traveled so far through that journey. It's actually quite nostalgic to go back to some of the earlier bream stuff, which I've almost forgotten. Over the years, I've had many different sponsors that helped me, I guess. Lowrance have been a big one. Cranker, Steersy have all been really big parts of my growth through fishing. And Daiwa as well are a big help for me through my fishing journey. But also, thanks to Morgo, I think what Morgo's done building this course for me is obviously a big thing, but I think it's going to be bigger for everyone else. What Morgo's done for fishing in general, I think, is huge. And now he's been able to put together something that is a lot of people will find helpful, and I'm really excited to see the future of it.
Absolutely. All right, mate. Thank you so much again for coming on, and hopefully we get to have a chat again soon, and we'll see where this takes us in another few months.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys. So that just about wraps it up for today's episode. Now, just one quick thing before we finish up. The sounder course we spoke about with Morgo on the forward face is dropping this Friday, or it should be. So keep an eye out for that. And for members of the Bream Fishing Project Collectives, there's an extra discount available, which I think is quite significant, which has been very generously put together by Steve and Nabeel. So definitely something to take advantage. Also, just a little heads up, there's a few changes coming to the Bream Fishing Project over the next couple of months. Nothing to dive into yet, but stay tuned. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time on the Bream Fishing Project.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you were informed, inspired, and entertained. If you were able to learn something or just enjoyed listening, please consider subscribing and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform.